In Pennsylvania, a crash in Susquehanna County has left one person dead. According to the Pennsylvania State Police, 21-year-old Braxton D. Bean was driving on State Route 247 in Clifford Township when he failed to make a turn in the road. Police say Bean drove into a ditch, causing his car to roll over several times before stopping on the passenger side of the vehicle. While the car was rolling, Bean was thrown from the vehicle. He sustained several injuries to his head and legs and was later pronounced dead at a local hospital. The cause of the crash is still under investigation.